Nick Perales, welcome to the Active Life Podcast, my friend.
I appreciate you having me here, Sean.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your story. I'm really curious how one go. Like, I want to end where we are today, and I'm curious how you go from Marine Scout Sniper, loses your legs overseas, and then at the bottom of them, and then comes back and ultimately ends up helping nutrition coaches build their businesses with better software and strategies and mindset.
Yeah.
Is that an appropriate way to describe what you're doing now?
100%.
Okay. Where do we have to start for that story to be appropriate? Is it like high school?
Yeah, it would definitely have to start in high school before
Okay.
I even joined the Marine Corps, actually.
Okay.
Kind of rewinding, going back in time. I grew up in a very small country town.
Okay.
Really wasn't much to do out there besides play sports and get in trouble.
Okay.
It's pretty damn good at doing both those things. Right?
What was your sport?
Baseball and soccer. So
Okay.
it started off mainly baseball. I eventually transitioned to soccer in high school, and I didn't really like the baseball coach too much.
Okay.
And that's when the trouble started.
There's a joke there that I'm not going to make.
Oh, yeah?
Go ahead, keep going. So you jump in. Okay. So you're good at getting into sports in trouble in high school. Where did that go?
Yeah, so one day, my dad was like, hey, you want to go with me to Houston to go to your brother's going away party? And I found out he was joining the Marine Corps. I had no idea what the Marine Corps was even all about at that point.
How old were you?
16, just turned 16.
And your brother was going to the Marines and you didn't understand it at all?
Yeah, I didn't fully understand what he was doing,
Okay.
right? And so I went to this party and I just saw like so many people there just like obviously cherishing this last moment with him because he was fixing to go away to the Marine Corps. There's obviously a war going on, right? And
Which war was it at the time?
Iraq.
Okay.
Yeah. So pretty much he was one of the first peaceful people to push into Iraq pretty hardcore. So went to this going away party with him or at my brother's, and he's someone I didn't really know too much growing up.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up in Houston with his mom. We have the same dad. I grew up in
I see.
Bandera, Texas with my mom. My dad was just kind of in the middle in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so someone I kind of admired from afar, like that older brother that you always wanted, but you never really had.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that was him. He started playing baseball. I started playing baseball. Right. He joined the Marine Corps. But man, I want to be like my brother. I want to do something, you know? And so really that was kind of like one of my big motivations to kind of join the Marine Corps. Right. I didn't know what I was going to do after high school. Like I was completely lost. Right. Like small country towns, like, you could either go to college or play sports or military. Right. One day I was in a lunch period and a Marine recruiter walked in and wearing his dress blues, that fancy uniform with all the medals and stuff. I was like, man, that dude looks like a badass, right? And he came over and just started talking to me. And eventually I was like, cool. I'll think about it. And then a week later, Navy recruiter comes in, right? Starts talking about the Navy SEALs and how cool it would be to travel the world, do all these cool things. And I actually found myself in the Navy recruiter's office a week later, right? With one of my buddies. Right, let's take this test and let's join the Navy, right? Soon after, Marine recruiter walked back in. He's like, what are you doing? Right, what are you doing with your life? And he literally asked me, it's in my face. I was like, I have no idea. I just got done talking to the Navy recruiter, and he started telling me about all the things about being in the infantry and type of person you become and all that stuff. It's like, cool.
Hold on. I have no idea what kind of person that is. What was he trying to tell you that person becomes?
Yeah, it's the core values, right? It's more like the man you become, right? Basically, like, join the Marine Corps, you have so much more respect.
I see.
Yeah.
He was building the Marine Corps up his status as compared to infantry.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's really what he was, an infantryman in the past, and he really just wanted to kind of like think about like the military in general, right? Especially the Marine Corps. It's kind of like status. Like you'll never achieve anything beyond this. Like this is the epitome of being a man. It's kind of how they teach you and preach you once you're in there to keep you there longer.
So far, I don't remember who it was I just heard this from. Maybe it was Cody Alford. I heard it somewhere. They were talking about the idea that like the way they keep people in the military as long as they can is by helping them believe this is the pinnacle of your life.
Exactly.
Right? It's wild.
Yeah, it is. And you believe it. Like you have no other choice but to believe it in that moment, right? And so eventually, long story short, I found myself in sunny California, San Diego, right? I was going through boot camp. I joined the Marine Corps as an infantryman, right? I figured if I'm going to join the Marine Corps, I want to do something with a purpose. And obviously the way I viewed it was, hey, I want to be at the forefront of what's going on in this world, right? I want to actually make something of myself and prove myself that I am this type of person, right?
Okay. What kind of person is that?
Just someone relentlessly willing to go out and just pursue life with confidence, not only confidence, but more along the lines of be a servant, right? Like that's really been who I am, like growing up all throughout my life is everyone I always put in front of me, right? I feel like I've always been called just to serve, like my family, my friends, like always willing to just to give everything to everyone with not much thought for myself.
Okay.
Right. And that was kind of like what I saw the infantry as, right? They're that person that is willing to lay their life on the line for a stranger that you may never know, right? Which is the American people, right? So yeah, I found myself in San Diego, went through boot camp. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, right? Like it was literally like you just shut up, you listen, you do what you're told, you'll do great, right? Everyone else that struggles is like those people that couldn't take those kind of orders and just follow instructions.
Was that a letdown for you?
It wasn't really a letdown.
Let me explain what I'm asking. I imagine going to boot camp because straight up, I was scared to go to the military as a kid. I'm like, I don't need that. I didn't grow up in a small town. I had options. I knew that I had options. I was like, why would I want to go to the military and get shot at in someone else's world when I could just do something I love for a living?
Yeah.
So that never crossed my mind to do. As an adult, one of the things that I have reverence for with anyone who's served in the military is, first of all, that they made that decision when I wasn't prepared to. And second, the thought that like there's something really hard you have to get through to be a part of this thing. And so what I'm asking is, did you anticipate boot camp being hard? Yeah. And if you did, and it wasn't, did you feel like, oh, this isn't as big of a deal as I thought it was going to be when I got through it?
Yeah, I imagine it would be physically tougher than I thought. Right? Mentally, I definitely was mentally tough. The challenge was definitely like doing things on someone else's every living command, right? Your life is basically stripped. You are no longer a person of freedom, right? When they say move, you move. When they say blink, you blink. When they say eat, you eat. When they say piss, you piss, right? Basically, you're at the control of somebody else above you whose status you had no idea what it was, right? And so like I think that was the toughest component of it. Like the physical side, like yeah, I thought it was going to be more challenging. But then I was also very physically active. I prioritized my health, my fitness, my well-being in high school, growing up as an athlete, right? And so like it really, what I imagined was kind of like you would see on like the, like I guess you were watching like a Navy SEAL or special ops like training school, right? Where they're going to physically beat everyone down, put you on the same playing field. So the only thing that matters is your mental toughness at that point, right? But I don't think that was true.
Okay.
Right. But yeah, so I got through boot camp. Basically, I found myself in the School of Infantry, not too far from San Diego, up in Camp Pendleton, right? And then from there, went to my first unit. Joined the infantry as a Fox Company. So 2-1 Fox Company was my unit. They just got back from Iraq. And so leaving the School of Infantry, they're like, hey, be aware, your unit just got back from a deployment. They're probably not going to be the happiest people, right? And so just kind of walk on eggshells. And that moment forward really kind of redefined my life, right? This is my first, like, I guess you could say my first perception of what the actual Marine carrying was from these people that just got back from a combat deployment where they saw a lot of action. They lost a bunch of men and they weren't willing to just let anyone into their family, right? You had to earn your spot. And I'm very fortunate for the family I was put into because they taught me a lot very quickly, right? They tested me from the day one, basically. And I would hate to even kind of say this kind of stuff on this podcast, first of all, because I don't want to make them seem like people they're not. But I was very grateful for the things that they did, basically allowing me to mentally and physically become harder at a quicker time rate, right? And so my team leader, very grateful for him, my squad leader, my platoon leader, basically they wanted to like battle test me before actually doing anything with me because our next pump was coming around the corner. Like we were fixing to go to Iraq in 8 months. And so they had a very limited time to really prove the point.
Well, I imagine that they just got done serving with guys. Now they know what all those guys are made of.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen combat.
Exactly.
I imagine you see combat, you're like, okay, I know who I can trust. I know who I can't trust. And I can trust all of these guys. But I don't know you.
Exactly.
And so I don't want to wait until we're overseas with bullets flying to decide
100%.
how and if I can trust you.
Yeah.
That's what you're describing.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. They needed to find like who they could rely on and who need to be weeded out that they could not rely on to make sure that they're in a position where they're not basically at the forefront of what's happening.
Right.
Right. And so that's basically what they did. And at that moment, I didn't know there was anything beyond the infantry still. Right. Like I heard about like special forces, I heard about snipers, but I had no idea the path to getting there.
Mhm.
Right. That wasn't even something on my radar until some of the guys that I went to boot camp with and went to the School of Infantry with, they're like, yeah, we joined scout sniper teams, right? Like basically everyone that was in my immediate circle, which I naturally gravitated to, these higher caliber people inside, they all went on to do something beyond just being a normal infantryman. And so like I joined the Marine Corps, right? And I became an infantryman. I went to my first deployment to Iraq. Inside this deployment is when I got that taste of like, there's people doing way better things at a different level that I need to be around. And it was while I was on that tour where one of the scout sniper team leaders came up to me. He said, Perales, I want you to come hang out with me for a little bit. And we went to the gym. Like literally, that's all we did. We went to the gym and we used what we called thrashed at the time, right? Basically, you do like 3 CrossFit workouts back to back to back, then go for like a ruck run around the base, like just everything you can do to possibly just like beat yourself down. And so we went and did that.
That's in between combat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. In the downtime, that's what we did. Right. We trained harder. Like that was one of the things. And he started educating me on like what he does, right? Being a scout sniper team leader, and started showing me all these different things and basically like took me under his wing during this deployment. So I would spend my normal days on this deployment running our ops, standing posts, and then at nighttime I would go hang out with him and he would mentor me and basically show me the ropes of becoming a scout sniper. And he literally said, my mission for you or my goal for you is by the time you get done with this deployment, you try out for our teams. You do an NDOC. And
You can do that on deployment?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be afterwards.
Okay.
In downtime, they do it. And so basically they were running tests with a bunch of people inside of the infantry. They're always looking to get new snipers inside of their platoon that basically like they can kind of like just see if they have what it takes, like not only physically, but also mentally. There's a lot of intellect that's involved. Right? It's not just about being able to run, shoot, and communicate. You know what I mean? It's about having the wits because you're running basically company level, battalion level missions as 21, 22, 25, 27-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so spent half the deployment just learning anything and everything I could about being a scout sniper. Came back from Iraq. First thing that happened was went to this NDOC, this 2-day NDOC.
What's an NDOC?
In documentation process. So basically they take people that have the best physical fitness test and they have a very good ASVAB score. They see that they have potential to be inside of their teams. And so they'll put you through like this test period where they're going to beat you to death, right? Run you to death. And then just test your wits. So basic Marine Corps knowledge about infantry stuff. And so after that 2-day period, obviously passed with flying colors just because I spent so much time working with Chris one-on-one and even the smaller group level. Like at that moment, it's very interesting to kind of think back now, actually. I never really thought about this too hard, right? But Chris Marquez is who the guy I'm talking about. He became like, I don't know, a brother to me, almost father figure like to a degree, right? But man, he was preparing me for things that I didn't know I needed to be prepared for. That's really what it came down to. And the fact that he was able to think so far out just because he had so much combat experience and knew the kind of caliber of a man that it took to do this, right? I just didn't see it when I was in that moment. Like he was kind of molding the perfect warrior for his team, right? And I see it now, not after being out of the Marine Corps, but as like an entrepreneur, as a business owner, like what he was doing.
What's an example of something that he was doing to prepare you for that? Like, because most of the people who are going to listen to this haven't been to combat, and they certainly haven't been on a Marine Scout sniper team, and they definitely haven't been mentored as an infantryman by a Marine Scout sniper team leader to be a Marine Scout sniper. What is an example of something that he mentored you to be able to do or think like that you've been able to carry all the way through?
Mission accomplishment. There's only one purpose as a scout sniper, and that is to kill the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only goal, is to be mentally harder, physically stronger than the person pointing the gun back at you or your men. And your job, your only job, is to do that to them before they do it to you.
So what kind of things do you do to develop that?
man, number one is getting very comfortable putting yourself in the most adverse situations where the only thing that's going to get you forward is your willingness to survive, right? And so we would literally, I'll give you a better idea of this, right? We would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, put a 40-pound ruck on our back, and run 10 miles to the hills at minimum. There's no very in-state destination. We're going to run until we can't run no more, until the sun comes up. Then we go to the pool, we swim, and then we go eat breakfast and we do a CrossFit workout. And then we spend all day, sun up to sundown, going over everything that we could possibly go over when it comes to like running missions. So everything from the proficiency of mission planning, right, to orienting ourselves to the enemy, to how to execute gun drills, shooting on the range, and then do it again in the evening. We put the ruck back on, we beat ourselves up a bit more, and then we go to sleep for a few hours, right? And we did that religiously every day, day in, day out. And he pushed me to be one of the first persons that go into the NDOC to join actual Scout Sniper School. You actually have to earn spots to go to sniper school. So not anyone in a sniper platoon is actual sniper. We call them pigs, so professionally instructed gunmen. Then we also have hogs, so hunters of gunmen. So to become a hog, you have to go to sniper school, and those are very like limited slots.
I see. So you're hunting the opponent's
hunter gunmen, right? That means you hunt snipers, right? And so basically, he had it in his priority list for me to be one of the first ones to get that school trained spot because his team relied on it. And so he did everything in his power to make sure physically I was capable and mentally I was capable.
What do you think he saw in you that made him come and seek you out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really don't know. Honestly, I really could not answer that for him.
You never asked him?
No, I never asked him. Never asked him that. I just just said, yes, I'll do it. You know? And to a degree, that's probably what it was. Like, I really, like, my whole junior years in the Marine Corps, it was just kind of like, just shut up and do what you're told. And just do it very damn well. Like, do it better than everyone else. That was, like, my perception of how I just execute life in general, right? Is I just want to be very good at doing the thing, right? And so if someone said, hey, you need to be the best person behind a grenade launcher, cool. I'm going to learn everything I need to learn about a grenade launcher and how to be accurate with that, right? And just apply that all over as many skill sets as I possibly could. And that I would never argue. I would never give up. I would never quit. Like, the word quit, like, drives me crazy, right? Try, hate the word try. Like, those kinds of things. It's just like, just do it. Like, you either do it or you don't. If you're not going to do it, get the fuck out, right? And so I would honestly think that was probably it. Like, that's what I was known for in our platoon, in our company. Inside the Marine Corps, I got in trouble. Continued on after high school. I got a DWI in the Marine Corps. I got demoted. I went from being a PFC, so a private first class, back down to a private, being the lowest rank on the totem pole. I was confined to my barracks for 3 months, no pay. And throughout that time...
No pay?
Yeah, no pay. Yeah, they took that. It's no big deal. They pay for our food anyways.
Right.
I have nothing better to do besides work out and eat. But yeah, and so like I did that, and I also took that time as a moment to just really like aggressively reevaluate like what I wanted to do. And throughout that time, I also got meritoriously promoted back up to a rank above where I got non-rank from, because I spent so much of my time and attention just focusing on bettering myself, and not just for myself, but for like the team and the platoon. And so I think like that's one of the things that he probably saw, because he actually got demoted as well. And you can see that quality, I guess, in a person. It's, now that you think about it, like our whole team basically got demoted at one point in there.
Right, so he saw some of himself in you.
Exactly. Not willing to quit whenever he's put up against a wall or something bad perceivably happens. You know what I mean? Like, use that moment to learn and get better. And that's really what I did. And kind of going off track, but going back to becoming a scout sniper, so going to sniper school, it was what I imagined it would be. I guess you could say that's really what it was. It was what I thought Marine Corps boot camp would be like.
Okay.
Right? The physical adversity that you're put into. Basically, they give you like this pig egg, we would call it. So it's basically a sandbag that's wrapped in duct tape, 40 pounds. You have to carry it everywhere you go. You're not allowed to walk anywhere you go. You have to run. Doesn't matter if you're going to the bathroom or you're going to the chow hall a mile away. You run everywhere you go. Right? And so like, it's like, oh, okay, this is what I was expecting. Right? And like throughout going through school, that's when I really kind of like saw a glimpse of like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. These are people I'm supposed to be around. They're definitely operating at a different level. You're not worried about the dumb shit over here in the background that isn't going to cost your team's life, right? And so it was in sniper school. We're going through a week where basically like that's where it's kind of like testing everything that you learn, all your knowledge, and you're running just fake ops, right? They're just missions that are supposed to simulate what it's going to be like overseas. And one of the end state goals of this is whenever you graduate school, right? You graduate cyber school, and there's this hill that you have to run up of, and you have to carry your spotter on your back. And basically, you pick up this guy, you put him on your back, you have to run up this hill. It's about half a mile up, half a mile down, right? At the top of this mile, or top of this hill, it's when they give you your hog's tooth. So it's a parachute cord with a 308 bullet on it. And it's supposed to symbolize the last bullet that ever touches your body, right? And so whenever you get this, like, you became a sniper, you became a hog, right? And like, I thought that was like gonna be the thing really that helped me, like, I don't know, cause man, I thought that was like the moment where it was like, I made it, I did it. You know what I mean? I'm a Marine now. It's kind of how I felt, right? I actually earned a spot, earned a place to being someone that says like, hey, I'm a warrior. And so eventually found myself in Afghanistan not too long after, right, our first deployment, which that's when everything kind of happened, right? It was Groundhog's Day, February 2nd, 2011. I'll never forget this day. Chris Kyle was killed on that day too, not too long after.
Okay, back in the States.
Yeah. February 2nd, 2011, I was on another routine mission. Just take out a bad guy, right? We say
a routine mission.
Yeah, just routine.
Remember.
Yeah.
Like the closest I've been to combat is getting in like a full team brawl on a basketball court.
Yeah.
So I don't know what a routine mission means.
Yeah, another routine mission. For us, it's literally like, hey, there's shitheads in this area. There's enemy. Go take them out. Go find them. Go eliminate the threat. Our guys need to work here, right? They don't need to worry if people are going to pop up and start shooting at them. And so we got word of a guy putting bombs on a frequently traveled patrol route. So basically, coalition forces were taking this known route, and they were been targeting them with IEDs. And so a couple days prior, they found a few IEDs, about 10-pound bombs, just buried inside the road. Found them with the dogs, and so they sent my team out there. Like, hey, we need you to go find the people that keep putting these bombs on the road and eliminate them because it's slowing down our operations, right? Every time a bomb's found, it takes hours to dispose of it.
Sure.
Everything has to shut down, right? And so they sent out my team. February 1st, basically we were preparing overnight, right? We take off under the cover of darkness. It was like 9, 10 o'clock at night. We insert ourselves into this local vicinity. Basically, like, there's a road. On the other side of the road, there's a river, a small, like, not too deep of a river, like knee height maybe, right? And the other side, there's like this sand hill. And so what we're going to do is basically set in on this sand hill where there's vegetation kind of covering it up. And so I had a 4-man sniper team. Basically, we were going to dig what we call a hide site. And so a hide site is whenever we dig into the earth or we cover ourselves with like vegetation, like a bush, and hide inside of it, right? And so we actually spent about 5 hours digging out a hole in the side of this hill that we're going to cover back up with shrubs and vegetation and bushes to kind of conceal our positions. And so what happened was we had 2 guys over here on this side of the river working on building out that site, and then me and our slack man. So he's a guy that just basically carries around a bunch of ammo or machine gun, just a bunch of like the equipment that we don't really need in terms of like the guns, right? And so me and my slackman Bibbs were on the other side of the road kind of doing some reconnaissance of the area, right? Trying to figure out, okay, where are these bombs most likely going to be, seeing if there's any known trace. So like trace being like signs of human life or movement in the area, like where paths are they taking to come put these things in, just trying to get an idea as they were setting up. We were vegging up our ghillie suits, so just getting ready to cover ourselves, our position. And literally it was at probably like 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, right before the sun came up. I turned around, I look at Blake, and I said, hey, Bibbs, like, we're good. Let's go back, let's set in, and let's hunt. I turned around and I took a single step. And then the next thing I know, I was being thrown through the air and then into the ground hard. Like a bright light just filled up the black sky, right? The bomb literally just went off right underneath my feet, right? And we were just laying there screaming to Bibbs, like, Bibbs, where are you at? Bibbs. Because I thought I just stepped on a bomb and killed my spotter. Like, that was the first thought. I was like, fuck, I just killed Blake. right? And so I started screaming back, and eventually he's like, Nick, I'm over here. Where are you at? And it just became like this game of like Marco Polo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blake, Bibbs. And he was crawling, trying to find me. And I was like, dude, be careful, man. There could be a secondary. And I was just laying like this bomb hole, right? I didn't know my legs were blown off at the time. Like I felt extreme pain, right?
You did?
Yeah. Hell yeah. It was like fiery. Like it literally felt like my legs were in like a bonfire. And my upper body was kind of like submerged in the Arctic Ocean, just like freezing cold.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very extreme. It was very weird, right? And that it really didn't last too long. It only lasted like maybe like 30 seconds to a minute where I felt that sensation.
What's after that?
My hand started hurting.
Really?
I broke my pinky, and I was holding my gun, and so my pinky got broke inside the trigger well of my gun.
Okay.
And like literally, is the only thing I could think about is this damn freaking pinky. It was open fractured over here.
Okay.
Yeah, but everything after that, like everything just kind of like started kicking in. Like, okay, we need to survive, right? Like we're in survival mode now. And so Bibbs finally crawled over. All of our med gear got blown out. It was inside of my pockets. And so tourniquets, took off our belt, started applying tourniquets to both legs, right? Using sticks to kind of twine them down just to cinch them up even harder.
Why wouldn't you use his?
He didn't have it. I was a team medic,
okay.
right? He didn't have his tourniquets on his freaking pockets.
Okay.
But we have belts, right? So belts are pretty good for us. So started applying tourniquets. Team over there, they started working their way back over to come just close off the facility, call in medevac.
Mm-hmm.
Literally laying there, the seconds felt like minutes felt like hours.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like forever. And eventually it did become forever. They called in medevac, and medevac said, hey, we can't come right now because the air's red. So whenever the air's red, it means either hostile facility, weather's not good enough for the helicopters to fly. They just can't take off right now. And so they're like, basically, you're going to need to hold tight, right? So Dust Alpha was the medevac team. And like hearing that over the radio,
right?
I was like, fuck, right? Like it was that moment. I was like, this is about to get real,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so like it was at that time, I was like, dude, Chris, tell my family I love them. Tell my sister. Like,
So you thought you may not make it?
Oh yeah. I was like, I'm done. Like as soon as I looked and saw that my leg was completely blown off and the bottom of my left leg was pointed up towards my foot with my tip of my fib pointed out to the left, like it was like, I don't know how long this is gonna last.
Mm-hmm.
Like my body was pretty much starting to go into shock. It was becoming hard to stay awake, right? Like I would just close my eyes and attempt to go to sleep. I just said, Chris, I'm done, man. I love y'all, appreciate y'all, right? I'm going to bed. I'm going to sleep now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as soon as I would close my eyes, like Chris just slapped the shit out of me right across the face, right? He'd be like, no, you're still in the fight. And he must have did it like 5, 6, 7 times. I don't even know. Like it over and over and over.
It's stay awake to stay alive, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And eventually we did get the word that the helicopter was en route, which was good. But that was probably the most painful part of the entire experience, was being transported from the ground in that hole on that helicopter. They had to cross that little river with me inside of a poncho. So a poncho is kind of like a blanket, right? And so basically they had to like roll me into this poncho with my hips already fractured, my legs obviously.
Right. No,
right.
Get them in there.
No, rolling into that was the most pain I've ever experienced in my life.
How long was the wait?
It was like 45 minutes to an hour.
45 minutes.
It was a long ass time.
You're like you didn't bleed out.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, it's insane. Like the tourniquets were just, they put belts on, they came back, they redid them with more.
Right.
And so we had a great team. We were very well trained, and they were doing everything they could.
So then they airlift you out of there.
Yeah.
And they take you back to base, and there's medics on site who can take care of you?
Yeah. So we went to, I think it's called Bagram. I don't remember the exact hospital. I was asleep, but it's basically they had like a triage facility in Afghanistan where they have like the first extensive care just to stabilize you before they give you or send you out to Germany. And that's where they go through like the more in-depth surgeries.
Right.
So I got stabilized in Afghanistan. I remember like in Afghanistan, I woke up for like what I felt like was like 5 minutes. And I remember waking up and Blake was right next to me. I totally, at that, like when I woke up, I had no recollection that he was actually with me. And I saw Blake, I was like, dude, what are you doing here? And he's like, you don't remember? I was like, oh shit, no, I stepped on an IED, right? And then I was like, Blake, do I still have my balls? And this is the funny part. He's like, yeah, man, I already checked. You're good. I was like, what do you mean you already checked?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, yeah, well, that's the kind of teammate Blake was, though. Like, he was the kind of dude that would just do anything and everything for anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, man, you're good. And that's really the only thing I remembered about being in Afghanistan after that was that conversation with Blake. And then found myself in Germany, waiting to just get more stable before I got sent to Bethesda in Maryland.
So, how many surgeries?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you that.
Several.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah. And then what's it like? What's the mental health part of that like? Because I'm just imagining good athlete, good looking kid, smart, high performer. Everything about the way you're going to live is new now.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
Like stepping on the bomb was the easiest thing I've ever done. It took one step to the right? Easy. Getting back up after that was the hardest thing I ever did in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's still hard to degree to this day, but getting back up to that was very challenging. When I was in San Antonio going through rehab, or I was in the hospital still actually, right? So I got transitioned from Bethesda to San Antonio because that's where my family was. So I was still going through surgeries, right? I had a big X-fix on my left leg. So like one of those metal cages with all the screws going in it. So you have to turn it to straighten it back out every single day. Mm-hmm. I was in the hospital kind of going through still some of the surgeries just to really stabilize the limbs and salvage them. And in this hospital, I remember thinking, I was like, fuck, like this is reality now. Like that's what it actually kicked in was when I got back to San Antonio when I was coming off a lot of the drugs, right? A lot of the things that were keeping me sedated.
Sure. Well, when it's also, I imagine that's the time when it's like, okay,
it was real.
So now this is like, I'm not going back to war. Mm-hmm. I'm not going back to the military, right? Yeah. So now what's life supposed to be? Because I'm not even getting to live with my legs.
Yeah. I thought I was going back.
Did you?
Yeah. Like that's all I want. That was the only thing that I cared about was going back. Mm-hmm. Like I wanted to do whatever I could to go back. Right. I felt like I just let my entire team down. Like they became inoperable because of me. Right. We took out 50% of the team in one mission. Right. And so they weren't allowed to operate no more. But yeah, it was in that hospital. Like it was that waking moment. I was like, fuck. Like I'm no longer a man. Like I thought being a sniper was being a man. And in that moment, I took a blanket, I wrapped it around my neck, tied it to the bar, and I rolled off of the bed. And to me, I was like, this is it. There's no purpose. I have no more purpose in life. This is all I know is bring the fight to the enemy. And I got no more enemy. I'm the enemy now. All right. And so I attempted suicide in the hospital. Luckily, one of the nurse staffs was walking in moments after, and she cut the bed sheet right off.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad she did that.
So am I.
How long did it take for you to feel like things were worth doing?
Years.
Yeah.
The next 2.5, 3 years I spent going through rehab in San Antonio. So OT, PT, just literally just trying to get back on my own 2 feet. And it wasn't the happiest place to be. Like at this facility, you're just surrounded by other people just like me. Other guys that are struggling with injuries from war. Some not, but just going through big changes in their life where they feel less of a man. They lost their sense of purpose. They're missing 1 leg, 2 legs, all 4 limbs. And it's just a very depressing place to be, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. Right? And like my day-to-day life became non-existent. I basically locked myself in my room, ate like an asshole, drank myself to sleep, was abusing every narcotic I could possibly get my hands on. Like they were just prescribing that shit like it was cool, right? You name it, Oxycontin, Dilaudid, Percocet, all of it, right? Like I was just using those things to mask reality and escape life because I had no idea what life was.
Were they providing you mental health support?
They did. Yeah. Didn't use it.
Right.
I would skip my PT appointments. I wouldn't go. I was in a wheelchair. I was like, fuck this. Like I would go there and they like sit on this ball, right? To like practice stabilizing. I'm like, dude, I was a Marine Scout sniper. You told me to sit on this fucking ball, right? Mm-hmm. Like, let's do something. You know what I mean? Right. And it was that mentality. Like that was a quick switch for me. It's having to go from like being hard charging, like gung ho, like it's go, fight, to being like, hey, you need to slow down and we need to just learn how to freaking sit up in a wheelchair.
Well, do you think, so I'm curious here, right? Because one of the things that we got known for at Active Life was giving hard chargers hard charging opportunities to get themselves well. But I wonder if if it would have mattered what you were given, if you would have saw it as appropriate for yourself.
Yeah, I think it was given in the right circumstance, yes, at the right moment. Very earlier me, I was still pretty mad at the world. Right?
What I'm talking about is like if there's a protocol that someone's following, right? And like the first thing we do with a double amputee is sit them on a ball and teach them how to restabilize their midline without the bottom of their shoe legs. Sometimes protocols have to get thrown out the window.
100%.
What I'm describing is I wonder if you would have followed an off the protocol, or if you were just like, fuck your rehab.
Yeah.
I'm not here for this.
Yes, I do believe so. That's because literally that's what got me back up and moving, was going off the protocol.
Okay.
I got exposed to a CrossFit gym called Alamo CrossFit. I don't believe they're open anymore, but they would give free memberships to the local Wounded Warriors, and that's where they would challenge you and ultimately like introduce you back to like functional fitness and just mindset of being who you once were, right? Is kind of having like the competitive advantage or competitive edge, and just like being around people that just want to push, right? Pursue more. And so like me, I joined that gym with my little sister. I was like, Larissa, let's join this gym. Like eventually I joined it. And that's really the thing that kind of got me back up and going. It got me going back to rehab, right? Is whenever I found that little.
Was it because you were in a situation where you're like, I want to be good at this now, and I need to go to rehab to be good at this? Was that part of the reason why?
No, it wasn't like that. There's a pretty big turning moment for me, but that kind of like made this big transition. It was more like a mental turning moment. Like so as I am right now, 180 pounds, I got up to about 250 pounds in this wheelchair, very overweight, out of shape, right? No confidence, didn't feel like a man, just lazy. Like I didn't know who I was. I wanted to be a Marine again. It's basically what I wanted to do. Like everything I wanted to do is I wanted to be a Marine. I wanted to put the uniform back on. I want to go back to war. I want to join the teams. Like that's what I thought I was going to do. And so I was like, if I want to be a Marine, I need to start off with looking like a Marine. And so like my first big moment was going to be going to the Marine Corps birthday again. Like I've been forgoing it ever since, like just not participating in any of the things because I didn't feel worthy of it.
How many years?
2 years.
2 years of missing things.
Yeah. 2 years is just like kind of like just fuck this, you know what I mean? Like I was just kind of pushing everything aside. Like I didn't feel like I was a Marine. Like I didn't feel like I was someone that looked the part, they alone could be the part, And so I said, hey, I'm gonna go to the Marine Corps birthday again. And so I wanted to put my dress blues uniform on and go to the Marine Corps birthday. And so I remember I was in the bathroom. I was putting on my blues coat, and I'll never forget this moment. I was staring at myself in the mirror, and I was trying to get the buttons, the clothes on the collar, and you can only imagine like 240-pound Nick's not fit into like I think it was 170, 160 time in the Marine Corps, not fit into that uniform whatsoever, right? And it was in that moment I was looking at myself in the bathroom, and I was like, what the fuck? Like I was just like instantly drowned in a sense of sorrow and disappointment. I just felt like I let everyone down. And that's when I kind of like came to, and I was like, man, what am I doing, right? I felt like I let my team down, right? They risked their lives to save my lives multiple occasions. Medevac team that risked their lives to come pick me up. Doctors, surgeons, PTs, OTs, my case managers, the Marine Corps, my family. I feel like I was just saying, screw you, my life is worth more than yours by the lack of actions I was taking with it. And it was in that moment, like every pill I had, I took in the trash, threw it in the trash, in the toilet, right? Went and cleaned out my fridge, my pantry, the kitchen, everything just trashed. Like, and that was like the defining moment was like, I need to do something. And that's when like everything just kind of shifted.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding you there. You had a moment looking in the mirror, trying to put your dress blues on, where you were like, I can't get these on. And what went through your mind was you're dishonoring all of the people who risked and dedicated their lives to making sure that you can be here today trying to put these dress blues on. What's wrong with you?
Exactly.
And then that was it. And it's been forward since then.
Yeah, it's been nothing but forward. And this, like that moment is like, fuck. Like it was just a giant kick in the gut,
Why do you think you were capable of having that introspection that day? Because you looked in the mirror several times in the 2 years leading up to that day.
I try to avoid it most times. Yeah.
Fair. It wasn't the first time you did though, was it?
No.
So why do you think that day you were like, you know what? No. Why were you ready at that moment?
I was sick of my own shit, honestly. Like, the Marines, being a sniper was everything I knew and loved. Like, the guys I worked with, like, it was, honestly, I felt like that was my life. Like, those people were my people. That was the end all be all for me. Like, I was dead stuck on, like, this is going to be how I go into the world and how I leave the world, right? It was fighting, right? And whenever I was putting on that uniform, like, it just reminded me of that.
So you thought you would die overseas?
Yeah, like, I was almost as sure of it.
Why? I've heard several military guys talk like that. I was with a bunch of SEALs a few weeks ago, and they all said the same thing.
It's what we sign up to do. It's not what we sign up to do, but it's what we're there to do at the end of the day when you think about it, right? Our job is to protect people to our left or right at all given costs. And it's kind of like this vow that you take for your brethren, right? I will protect you till my body runs dry of blood. Like, that's it.
It's just so it's so foreign to me though that I can see that oath, and it's still foreign to me that it would also become the expectation. Like, there's the I got your back, I got your front, I got your side. And then there's the and I expect to have to be.
I guess it's not really like, so it depends on, like, your position and what you do too. You know, not everyone is going to go into a zone or a MOS where they're put at the forefront of combat. You know, and so, like, one of my jobs, one of my duties, I was a point man for my team, meaning I was the first guy. I was leading the ops. Everyone follows my path, right? Whenever we got there, like, here's a metal detector. I need you to sweep everywhere you go to make sure you're not stepping on bombs. Same time, that metal detector goes beep, beep, beep. Every time it hits metal, there's metal everywhere. In Afghanistan, there's trash everywhere. I took that thing, I threw it away. I was like, guys, like, if someone steps on a bomb, it's going to be me. Right? But I'm not going to put the team at risk by carrying this thing around, slowing us down, right? And having, like, these ambient lights and these noises, right? And so, hey, I'm very aware this may happen, right? But I don't want this to happen and y'all, whatever, something happened to y'all because of it. You know what I mean? I didn't want that to be a repercussion of it.
So they make noise for...
Yeah,
that seems strange.
Yeah, you're supposed to wear headphones, but you're wearing headphones, like,
you can't hear your team.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You got radios, you got gunshot going off. You got to be able to hear what's going on around, especially at nighttime when the noise is a lot louder.
It's
right?
like, you would think with all, like, I've heard we're spending $50,000 a minute right now on technology. Not even on weapons, on, like, cyber technology. It blows my mind that we don't have something that's like a LiDAR, if you will, that says, like, hey, the bombs are over here.
Yeah, I'm sure they have something now. It's just maybe years ago.
Yeah. Maybe. But so even so, okay. That's wild. It's wild to me because the thought process is most of the people who go to war come back, like, as a civilian, right? That's the thought process. And in some ways it feels, just speaking transparently, like it's the exceedingly unlucky guys who end up taking shots overseas and maybe not making it home. But every time I talk to somebody who actually saw combat, it's like, no, it's way more prevalent than that.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in those positions. Like, a lot of the guys, that's what they're chasing. That's what they seek out, is they want to be put in those circumstances, those situations where they can test their skills that they've been training for. Right? They're not trying to avoid it. They're actually proactively going into it.
Well, the other thing that's interesting to me about all of this, a lot of it's interesting to me, right, is having never been there and having only seen, like, the stuff on the news and the stuff in movies and stuff like that. It seems like, unless if our guys got overwhelmed by a size of a troop that they couldn't handle, like, that our technology and our skill set is so advanced past the enemy that there's no way that they could do damage. And that's obviously not true either.
Yeah.
That's a mistake. Yeah, that's a misnomer.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's so interesting. Like, perception is so misguided.
Yeah, there's only so much you do have access to, especially where you're at in country. Right? Especially at that time, like, it's just they're just spread out. The battle space is so huge, right? At the end of the day, it's like all of Afghanistan was at war, right? Certain battalions, certain units, they only get so much resources available to them, right? Some are prioritized more than others, depending on the zone, right? Depending on how likelihood there are to confront enemy, right? And so really, it just kind of depends on the battle space. Like where we were at, vehicles couldn't even get into them because of the territory, the terrain. Like there's no point in us having Humvees or MRAPs with machine gun, 50 cals on. There's no point. We have to walk everywhere, right? And so that's just the nature of the beast. Like we could get drones, but what are the drones going to do at the end of the day, right? There's only so much.
Right. Are you still in contact with the guys who helped you out?
Oh, one of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them.
Unrelated, well, not unrelated, related question that seems off topic. What was it like for you when the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan the way that we did?
I didn't really think much of it at the time, honestly.
Nothing there for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I appreciate, I was curious.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get back to a physical condition that you were like, yeah, okay, we're good?
Yeah, that's a few years. It took probably like 5 years after the incident, I would say. 5 total years, 2011 to like 2016-ish.
Okay.
So basically 2013 is when I retired out of the Marine Corps. So December 2013. So the end of 2013 is when I fully medically retired out of the Marine Corps.
So 2 years after you stepped on the IED.
Yeah.
You retired.
Yeah, I retired. And one of the things that I did retiring is I went to Mount Kilimanjaro. And so like I had this thing where like everything in my life, it always transition with some kind of like monumental goal or journey, something like that, where I test my limitations and just kind of like take a moment to get clear on like what that next thing is for me. And so I went out to Mount Kilimanjaro with a few other veterans, a small group of us, 4 or 5 of us, I believe. And we went to summit Mount Kilimanjaro. Came back from that, and like it was just clearer than ever, like what I want to do with my life. Like I wanted to continue serving not only my country, but my community. It's a vehicle that really kind of got me out of where I was, which is fitness and nutrition, right? Like I said, I found this CrossFit gym, and they ultimately changed my life, right? They brought Mark Devine with SEAL Fit out there, and they ran the Kokoro camp for us.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like 20 veterans with all different injuries, and Mark Devine and his team came out, ran Kokoro. They partnered each one up with the CEO that was going to be donating to the foundation, right? And so we got to spend 24 hours going through this enduring event with them, and it was like that. It's kind of one of the things that gave me like this shift, and like holy shit, like the mission's not over. You know what I mean? Like there is something beyond just the service, and like you have a different purpose now. And it was being alongside like this CEO of like a $50 million company and watching him just get his ass handed to him, right? And then me over here is a guy that's kind of been through these kind of endeavors, holding him and carrying him through the thick of it, right? And just kind of being his shoulder to lean on. It kind of like opened that up for me, like, hey, normal people need the skills that I have, and it's not just like the physical, but the mental skills. That's what ultimately I learned in the military, was how to basically overcome, adapt to any given circumstance or situation. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, right? But that kind of stuff, just enduring, resiliency. And so that really kind of opened up, like, that's really what I want to do with my life, right? Is I want to help people not feel the way that I once felt looking in that mirror with that uniform on, right? And so that became like my mission, right? I started taking on internships at CrossFit gyms, I became a trainer at one of the CrossFit gyms, became a head coach of multiple CrossFit gyms, eventually tried to open up my own gym. That didn't last too long. I knew nothing about business, only a lot about training. And so, yeah, I just never really looked back from that.
First of all, I think it's sad that the gym that you got this from is no longer operational.
Yeah.
Or that's one of the things that, like, it's the CrossFit ecosystem is an interesting one because there's so much potential there and so much of it is wasted. And it's sad when I hear stories of people doing incredible work, like the people who helped you, no longer being in business. How did you end up becoming an entrepreneur? Because you were describing just a second ago, you were going to open your own gym and you're like, I don't know anything about business.
Mhm.
Well, now you own your own business and you're helping people do a better job in their own.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah. A lot of lessons learned through working for others. Honestly, like that was, for me, like at first it wasn't about business or entrepreneurship. I never knew that I wanted to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just wanted to help people. And so that's what I did at CrossFit gyms. Like I would literally go find a gym in my local area and be like, hey, can I become a coach for you? I don't want to get paid, by the way. I just want to help others. I just want to be here. Because that was the thing that was keeping me going, was being in that environment.
Right.
Right. Like selfishly looking back, like it was very selfish of me. Right. Because that was what gave me my purpose. Right. And so I would go to these gyms and I'd be like, hey, I just don't want to get paid. I just want to learn how to coach. Right. Eventually, those skill sets kept leveling up. Hey, I don't want to just coach, but I also want to learn how to become a head coach for you one day. You know, by the way, don't pay me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to do. Like gym owners like, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually I just kept leveling up my skills and leveling up my skills like that. And it was Iron Tribe Fitness. So I saw a job application for Iron Tribe Fitness and it looked nothing like the other CrossFit gyms I've ever worked for.
Is this when they were still CrossFit affiliates?
No, they were
Okay.
CrossFit. Yeah, it was just Iron Tribe Fitness, the franchise.
Right.
Right. And I was like, man, they're different. Right. They look very professional, very clean.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They pride themselves on their coaching, and I applied and I got a role there, and I tried to pull the whole thing that I always pull. It's like, hey, I don't want to get paid. I just want to work. He's like, no, I'm gonna pay you.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you're gonna be on salary.
Right. That was the first real business person you came.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, okay, this is what it means to run a business. You know what I mean? And so, like that at that moment, that's when like skill sets really started leveling up. Right? He unveiled a whole different side of being a professional in the fitness space that I wasn't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Besides just on the floor telling people to squat lower.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's when like every little detail started to matter. Right? About how someone walks into the door to how they leave, like point A to point Z. And so really that's kind of was like the turning moment for me when I was like, man, like this is really what I want to do, is I want to facilitate this kind of environment for not just clients, but also for coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so eventually I started coaching their coaches on how to be better coaches. Right. And started doing everything from certifications to mentorship programs, like everything in between, like just always trying to learn and go apply.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you were describing before being in a bunch of businesses that were less like businesses and more like hobbies.
Very bad hobbies.
Yeah, unfortunately. And then you get to a real business and they're like, no, I'm going to pay you. And in part because I have expectations of you.
Yeah.
And if I don't pay you, I can't enforce those expectations. And if I do pay you, better hold up to them or you're not going to get paid anymore. Exactly. You're not going to do this anymore. And it's so funny how people oftentimes get their wires crossed about money. Mm-hmm. Whereas like, you had your wires crossed about money. You didn't want to take people's money and them not want, like them accepting that, you know, initiating that led to you not developing as fast and them not being as successful. It's like a microcosm of the whole thing. You follow me there?
Yeah, 100%.
So how does, I mean, you described earlier that the way that what you learned in the military translates into what you do now was in regards to there is no trying, there is no quitting. It's really going to do this or we're not going to do this. You're now helping people who didn't come through the same life that you did, right? Everyone's worst day is everyone's worst day. Everyone's hard is their version of hard. I imagine most of the people you work with haven't experienced some of the things that you've endured. And their worst day has potential to be something that you're like, I don't understand why this is making you emotional, why you think you can't overcome this. You're literally getting an error message on your website, right? This is not worth losing your mind over. How do you handle that given the experience that you've had without saying, hey, I stepped on a bomb in Afghanistan and spent 2 years figuring out who I was again. you're getting an error message on your email. You're going to be fine. How do you do that?
It's a lot of patience.
Yeah.
That's what being a sniper taught me, is how to be patient.
I bet.
No, honestly, that's been one of the hardest things for me to kind of like take a step back and look at it from a different perspective, right? Because my reality is go fast, go hard, like speed, execute. And then you got people's like error message, and then you just delayed their entire week. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
Google exists nowadays, YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. But really, like, I had like this no bullshit mentality approach, right? People know I'm known as the bad cop. Christy's known as the good cop.
You're the bad cop. I watched you work with a client.
Yeah, I'm the bad cop.
That's bad cop?
I've been practicing being the good cop very
For
diligently.
people who are listening, that was not a bad cop routine. Okay,
I've been practicing being the good cop so hard, especially this year.
Okay.
Right? No, but I'm definitely known as the bad cop. It's like, just do this. You know what I mean? If not, I literally just take it into my own hands. I'm like, it's not worth me trying to like redirect you all these different places. Like, just get on this call with me 2 seconds. Like, we'll do it right now.
Right.
I mean, like, sometimes like that is the faster approach for me than trying to spend 20 minutes trying to text you or send you an email, you know? And so really that's kind of been one of the things that I've kind of been working on recently is.
What do you like about it?
About?
What you do for work? Like, it's totally, like, I'm going to take an answer off the table for you, because I know the simple answer for you to give, and I'm not going to let you give it.
Yeah.
So you went from hunting people who are hunting your friends.
Yeah.
To helping people set up back ends for their nutrition businesses. There's a lot in between, right? Those are not similar jobs. They're not similar jobs.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're not, like, I have some of my friends who are ex-military do things like they set up survival schools, right? And they teach people basic tactical skills, that kind of stuff. Like that, even though that's not similar to being at war, it's still in that skill set.
Yeah.
You went left to right.
Yeah.
What do you like about it besides that you're able to help people see their future through?
Yeah, the way I kind of see it is I'm kind of still at war.
Go on.
Yeah, if you kind of look at society, people in general, right? Like, I'm at war with helping them live a better life. Like, all the things that I view as the enemy are like the McDonald's chains, the couches, the TVs, keeping them unhealthy, unfit, out of shape, and miserable, right? And kind of going back to like mission-oriented stuff is like my perspective of things. Like, being a scout sniper, one of the things that we did was kind of really define the battle space, right? We were the eyes and ears of the battle space. And so one of the things that we would do is we would do reconnaissance on the battle space. We'd figure out, okay, what's going on in this area? Where do we need to orient it? What are the missions that the other people need to go run to control this environment? And so we basically mission plan for the line teams to go and execute the mission. We'd overwatch it. And so I kind of still think about it the same way, right? And it's been a small subtle shift over the past few years, going from coaching clients as a nutrition and fitness coach to coaching coaches on how to better coach clients, right? For example. And so really we're like the eyes and ears of the battle space still, right? And so that's the way I see it, is what we're doing is at a bigger picture of helping coaches spread their impact and control the environment, and we're just overseeing it, you know? And so like that's kind of my perspective, and really what I kind of like really like about it so much is the bigger picture of it, right? Because I was in it before, right? I was on the ground as an infantryman running the operations. I know what it feels like. Then stepping back as a sniper, overseeing what the operations are doing and how we're actually ultimately shaping the environment, that gave me a lot more fulfillment. And so I kind of get that same fulfillment now, today, doing it in the way that we're doing it.
That's interesting. What you're describing is that you started your military experience doing the thing, and then you evolved your military experience to plan and oversee the thing and protect the thing and grow the thing. And so in business now, you went and, we didn't even touch on the fact that you were really successful in the nutrition space without a big Instagram following, by working with other gyms saying, I'll help the nutrition inside of your gym. You just help me get in front of your clients, and we'll both make money and your clients will be happy. and you transitioned that into building out back ends for people's businesses.
Correct.
And so you were in it, and now you're back into planning, you're back into overseeing, you're back into making sure that they can execute and grow.
Exactly.
I didn't expect to see that parallel. It's cool though.
Went from pulling triggers to typing on keyboards.
Yeah, well, look,
Nah,
it's a versatile skill set.
it is. It is.
Yes.
Right.
What is a lesson that you are able to take with you through all of it? Let me.
Yeah.
When you, before we started, you said you're still, or in the beginning, you said you're still kind of getting used to it, right? Like it's still kind of I have these prosthetics now instead of the legs I was born with.
Yeah.
It seems like it's when you present, I've met you now several times, right? And every time I meet you and every time we talk, you come across as a guy who's really got his shit together. And I believe that you do. So I'm not saying that you put up a good face. And you deal with that every day. What is the lesson that you've learned through this whole thing that allows you to stay level instead of saying, today I'm angry, today I'm happy, today I'm grateful, today I'm sad, like all of that?
It could always be worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way I kind of see it now, like it's really become like kind of like my mantra over the past few years, right? Is you're only ever one decision away from changing your life forever, for the better or for the worse, right? You can take a step right, step on a bomb, change the course of your life, right? You can decide to stand up and look in the mirror and change your life, right? And so really, it's like if you don't freaking love your life, just simply change it, right? Just make a different decision, and really, that's kind of like the filter.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you have different perspective in terms of like what you're risking when you take that different direction? Because like one of my struggles is I don't really have, I probably have an irrational level of confidence. I'm like, I could, whatever, let's just burn it down and start over. I'm not saying I want to do that. So if anyone on our team is listening, we're not going to burn it down and start over. I just don't have the fear that would be a bad thing. I imagine that some of that comes from your experience too. How do you help people do that who aren't born that way or who haven't had experiences like you have that lead them to believing it will be okay?
A good question.
Got one. We always get one.
Yeah, it's that one. And I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like you said, from your confidence, right? Like there's always that one person where they have so much confidence in their ability to just rebound, get back up, figure it out, that you can kind of ride that, you know, and just having that person in your corner sometimes gives you that confidence that you need just to take that next step. And so really, I think that's really what it is. Like, I'm willing to burn this thing down with you and I will help you figure it out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so really, I think that's it. Like, that's the thing is like, I track history, right? Like, I will walk through the fire with you. I will walk into bullets with you. And if we fall down, we will find our way back up eventually. You know, it may not be tomorrow, but it'll happen.
That's cool. I believe you. That's as in thinking about the kind of relationships I like to have with people and with people we collaborate with and partners and all that kind of stuff. That's hard to come by.
Yeah.
And that would be comforting.
Yeah.
Nick, anything you want people to know before we wrap this thing up?
Nah, I just appreciate you, Active Life. Y'all have done so much for me. Like, seriously, man, I can't even begin to tell you what Active Life has done. I didn't even mention this. Back when I was in Iron Tribe, right? Like, that was my first exposure to Active Life. It was through Brute Strength, actually, through Brute Body.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the program I was going through. And I was doing the Brute Strength programming, and I tore my adductor.
Okay.
Right? Doing like 10 sets of 10 box squats. Something crazy. But it wasn't during the box squats. It was actually kicking a kickball after the box squats. Okay. And then I saw your YouTube video, and it was about, man, what was it again? stress where you're like pouring the water inside of the,
Yeah.
what's that thing called? What is it you do?
Load versus capacity.
Load versus capacity. I was just blanking, right? I saw your YouTube video on load versus capacity. Like, damn, it wasn't the squats, it's me kicking the fucking kickball. It was everything that led to that moment. And really, it just kind of shifted my whole perspective on just how I approached training people, and not just training people, but training myself. And like, it's so crazy to think about, like just being here right now across from you after that video, it really did like make a huge shift on how I help people inside of a facility. It just gave me a different perspective on the professionalism of the service, right? Because that's something I didn't learn from anyone else, but I saw you leading the industry doing that. And it really allowed me, or gave me this sense of calling to level up, you know? And so it was a huge shift in my career as a trainer, as a coach, but not just a coach, but also now in the entrepreneurship world.
That's cool. I appreciate you sharing that.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
One video, huh?
There you go, man. No, but for real, like it really did a lot. And I appreciate being here and having this opportunity. So
Yeah, I'm glad we decided to do this.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, man.
Turn pro. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Active Life Podcast. Please remember, give us a hand, rate it, review it wherever you listen to shows. We are on a mission to humanize the healthcare industry by professionalizing the fitness industry to empower the individual to live a life unlimited by the way that their body looks, feels, or performs. If you are inspired by that mission and want to jump on the wagon, find us anywhere. Active Life Professional on Instagram, Active Life RX on Instagram. Come to me personally at Dr. Sean Pastuch. We want to welcome you onto the train. We want you to be a part of the mission. We want to offer you the opportunity to pursue this right alongside us. We're inspired by your effort, and we hope to help you in your journey. Turn pro.